A warm welcome to Aviation this week on Channels Television. I'm Bukola Joe Ukitumbi, and compliments of the season. Countries across Europe and beyond have closed their borders to travelers from the United Kingdom, citing concerns of a new fast-spreading variant of the coronavirus. Here in Africa, taking precautions against the spread of a new variant of the coronavirus is also forcing some countries to temporarily sever air links with South Africa. Obviously, the air travel sector is taking another hit that could find the already troubled sector plummeting further. How well can Nigeria's domestic airlines navigate if the air link to the United Kingdom is cut, knowing that this provides a bulk to the domestic sector? That's our focus, and our background report is up next.
The COVID-19 pandemic has impacted all industries, all sectors, and all aspects of our lives, with devastating economic and financial losses and significant uncertainties. While countries opened borders following a decline in the infections, a new COVID-19 strain has seen an increasing number of countries banning flights from Britain following the decisions by several European nations to suspend travel from the UK.
Pretty historic time. Basically, I have been here for last 8 to 7 years as a visitor, and I'm confused at this time. Basically, when I arrived here on 14 December, situation is totally different. It's hard time here.
The domino effect of travel restrictions has been growing amid rising concerns over the situation in the UK, as Prime Minister Boris Johnson announced stronger coronavirus restrictions would be put in place to combat an alarming surge in infections linked to the new strain.
We're issuing new advice on travel. Although the new variant is concentrated in Tier 4 areas, it is nonetheless present at lower levels around the country. So we're asking everyone in all tiers to stay local. People should carefully consider whether they need to travel abroad, and they should follow the rules in their tier. Those in Tier 4 areas will not be permitted to travel abroad, apart from limited exceptions such as for work purposes.
The Netherlands became the first major European country to announce a ban on flights to Britain, with Belgium closing its borders to planes and trains coming from the United Kingdom to prevent importing the new strain of the coronavirus. Belgium has also been in touch with France over road transit passengers from Britain after the neighbouring Netherlands also banned flights carrying passengers from Britain over coronavirus. Italy has also joined the fray.
Every country has to make its own decision. One of the things that's happened here is because we have the capacity to sequence the genome that makes up the coronavirus, and actually this country has done getting on for half of the entire world sequencing of the coronavirus genome, 45% I think is the figure I saw. We tend to be more aware of the variants faster, and there have been thousands of variants of coronavirus. It's just that the particular one that we've seen in Kent and London, the thing which has led to the Tier 4 lockdown, is a particularly virulent variant of the virus. So it means that it spreads more easily.
Ireland also announced a minimum 48-hour ban on all flights from Britain, effective from midnight on Sunday. People in Britain, regardless of their nationality, should not travel to Ireland by air or sea. Along with Spain and Portugal, the Danish Ministry of Transport on Monday the 21st announced it would close airspace for all passenger aircrafts from the UK for 48 hours to prevent the spread of the new mutated virus.
It's
There's not a lot of people traveling, obviously. It's kind of weird. It's actually a little bit easier to get in and out, but the restrictions on travel is a lot harder. It's tough to see family. And so few can get by. It's really putting a constraint on a lot of people, but I think overall we're all just waiting on the opening up of all of the countries, you know, in that sense, to see our family and get back together.
Russia joined Poland to take steps to halt the spread of the new variant and will suspend flights from the UK for a week, starting on Tuesday. In addition to the countries mentioned above, a host of other nations around the world, such as India, Pakistan, Jordan, Chile and Argentina, have also issued travel bans to and from the UK. South Africa is also being denied access to Germany as a new strain ravages the African nation. Berlin-based businesswoman Marina Wesolowski arrived in South Africa earlier this month, hoping to spend Christmas with her family and friends. But now Marina, a husband and two young adult daughters who arrived in South Africa on December the 12th, don't know when they will be able to return back home.
I didn't think that air traffic will be affected in the way it is being affected right at the moment. That is shocking, and I don't quite know which way things are going to go, and we're here to spend Christmas with our family, and I don't know, we'll see what will happen. Obviously we need to return because we have to look after our business, and our children are studying, and we need to go and do things back at home.
That's because at least 5 countries and airlines, including Germany and Turkey, have reportedly banned flights from South Africa over the discovery of a new variant of the coronavirus there. Now to Nigeria, where the festive season drives up air travel traffic. And the United Kingdom route is a constant feeder for local airlines. The issue of banning travel to Britain is still a subject of review. That's according to the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19.
TF, the Aviation Authority, and the health authorities, including the World Health Organization, are assessing the situation closely and will take a position as soon as cogent scientific bases are established.
With European countries cutting air links to the UK, this travel ban will definitely impact on the economy. In the face of the second wave of COVID-19 in the country, can Nigeria Airlines face another flight suspension if the COVID-19 situation worsens?
Since about 3 months that we opened now, our discharged stroke confirmed rate is 1-to-1, meaning that every case that is confirmed goes back home negative. Okay. So that is not an alarming data for me. We must be doing something right in the environment here, that when they get in confirmed case, they get discharged. That is what the data is showing. The economic hardship that COVID has placed on people is leading to a lot of aggression. This NSAS protest, believe you me, I think is more connected to hunger, which is as a result of COVID. So it's economically unwise to do any lockdown right now, except the data now begins to show negativity, that confirmed case and discharge case is growing worse. Otherwise, there shouldn't be any reason for any lockdown. The woes will only be higher. Since COVID-19 started, Nigeria has promised palliative to its airlines and the allied services, which they have not got. So it can only grow worse, and you better be looking for safe air skies. Because without money, you cannot operate safe air skies. The airlines will want to hang in there, and I hope SCAA will be doing their right job. I don't want to see aircraft beginning to drop in the skies. The economic hardship is real. And if you want airlines to begin to continue safe operation, they needed this support like yesterday. Payrolls are being taken in other economies. Nigerian government is not taking any payroll. I hope the palliative is not in this 2021 budget. Otherwise, what are we waiting for? The palliative has not been received till now, not only to airline, to all allied services. So if we think of another lockdown, then we might be thinking of the head of aviation industry in Nigeria. Well, they've been streamlining since COVID started. They streamline all the schedule, streamline all the aircraft usage. But I think COVID might force them, compel them to see the rationale in margin. Because where one airline is parading all the aircraft and you're doing 40, 50% payload at any one time, why don't you see the sense in margin? No matter your differences, and margin and become a very solid operator, having 80, 90% of the payload all the time. Mind you, the economy is not so good that people can buy your business at first class anymore. So you have to turn the aircraft now to what you call boss. You have to bring the tariff right down to fill the aircraft and make your margin. So if you don't fill that aircraft, if the load capacity is not met, you are not likely to make any good margin, and you are by implication planning accident. The only way to reduce your cost is to go adopt technology. So I'm still in the main line of operation. If I were still running aircraft, I will seriously reduce operations to the barest minimum, and any flight that does not deliver a load factor that will break even will be cancelled. Yes, customers will complain about delays and cancellations and what have you, but if I will not break even, I'll make sure I don't touch any red operation.
The COVID-19 pandemic has no doubt had a significant impact on airline companies due to travel restrictions and a slump in demand among travelers. Several airlines have declared bankruptcy, with some ceasing operations, while other airlines reported historic reductions in flights. By October the 8th, 2020, 43 commercial airlines had gone bankrupt and many more were expected to follow. For Hong Kong's Cathay Pacific Airways, 5,900 job cuts and the end of its regional Cathay Dragon brand as part of cost-cutting plans did not go down with the staff. The airline has also sought changes in conditions in its contract with cabin crew and pilots as part of a restructuring that will cost $283.9 million. Away from Asia to Africa, where the statistics from the International Air Transport Association's boss, Alexandre de Juniac, is also grim. 4 African carriers have ceased operations and 2 are in administration. This includes South African Airways, which is on the brink of collapse, with government looking for a buyer. It has received state bailouts of almost $4 billion, but still has an outstanding debt of $613 million. In April, Air Mauritius was the first African airline to enter voluntary administration as a result of the crisis, while British Airways' South African franchisee Comair filed for business rescue in May. The global airline body indicates that the region's traffic is down 89%, with revenue losses expected to reach $6 billion, and the consequences of the breakdown in connectivity are severe. 5 million African livelihoods are at risk, and aviation-supported gross domestic product could fall by as much as $37 billion. That's a 58% fall. In Nigeria, airline carriers are struggling while awaiting the 4 billion naira palliative promise.
Not flying for 3 months plus 3.5 months, it was devastating because all of us were not making a penny in revenue, yet our costs continue. You must pay your insurance, it's in dollars. You must pay your aircraft lease costs, it's in dollars. You can negotiate all you want. They too are suffering because everybody in the world is trying to negotiate their payments. So it was a very, very rough period for everybody. Yes, coming back now is like we're in a different world from where we were before COVID-19, completely different. The revenue profile is much lower. The ability to put passengers on seats is much, much harder. And we're just hoping that it will keep getting better.
Beyond the funds, is innovation going to help airlines negotiate this dark corner? On another hand, the bailout is said to be raising dust as airline operators are at loggerheads over modalities for sharing the 4 billion naira bailout fund approved by the federal government. Industry sources say there is a grand plan to exclude state-backed airlines like Aero, Arik and Ibom Air from the bailout.
Welcome back. Our special report for the week is next.
Now to Canada, where a small recycling company is taking advantage of an opportunity presented by aircraft retirement. Retired aircraft line this tarmac, waiting to be dismantled. Various workers move air ramp across the tarmac. As COVID-19 grounds a large number of airline fleet, accelerated plane retirements is somewhat creating a room for profits for companies that thrive on dismantling and trade of aircraft parts.
This is an Airbus 310 that we started the harvesting of parts and the decontamination of this specific aircraft.
Canada's Aerocycle is bidding to buy grounded planes for the first time to dismantle and resell for parts instead of just recycling.
Behind there are bags, and what we're doing that's kind of special, that's why we just started doing it. The insulation that you see here in the walls, we've given this to a company in Quebec that manufactures electric buses, and they want to reuse the insulation bags for their buses. So we're trying that out right now.
While companies involved in the trade see opportunities in parked planes, a sudden increase in the supply of used parts risks depressing prices in the estimated $3 billion a year industry. With aviation remaining in a slump because of the pandemic, the fate of the world's pool of grounded planes is being closely watched by players in the market for used serviceable materials.
They're going to have to make certain financial decisions and cut their losses. Try and maximize the value of getting a certain value for the aircraft now versus next year. No one knows what the actual market, how the market predictions are going to be, right? If certain aircrafts are available now and they're priced right, that's where we're going to make the move to possibly purchase them.
The number of planes dismantled for parts or scrap could double to 1,000 annually through 2023. That's up from roughly 400 to 500 planes a year since 2016.
I think companies like ourselves are going to take certain precautions on harvesting parts off different types of airplanes to make sure that we're investing our money on removing parts that are in high demand. There's no rush for us to harvest parts off an aircraft. It could take a bit longer to make sure that our return on investment is a low risk. And if we need a part within 48 hours, we can get a part removed and AOG or shipped to whoever's requesting that part, right? So for us, it's more about being cautious on how we're harvesting parts off which aircraft. versus before it was a bit more open, so we would harvest more parts and keep them in inventory. Now we're just going to, again, make sure we measure our risks on removing what parts off what aircraft.
Airplane recycling pertains to the process of harvesting parts and materials from end-of-life aircraft. As the airline industry looks to become more eco-friendly as well as to cut costs, one area of increasing interest is that of aircraft recycling. With 12,000 aircraft scheduled to be decommissioned over the next 2 decades, recycling will play a larger role.
The Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria says it has beefed up security at the airport owing to the surge in passenger traffic, which is the norm at this time. FAN says it's also appealing to passengers to please get to the airport early to conclude all check-in procedures in good time, especially with the added protocols occasioned by the COVID-19 pandemic, so as to avoid the experience of missing their flights. The Air Transport Association has called on governments to ensure that aviation workers be next in line for COVID vaccination after healthcare workers and vulnerable groups. IATA says the aviation industry is integral to the distribution of medical supplies, medicines, and of course the COVID-19 vaccine itself. The body says it's not just asking for aviation workers to be on top of the list, but that governments ensure that transportation workers are considered as essential to the populace. Singapore, where the country has received its first batch of Pfizer's BioNTech's COVID-19 vaccine ahead of a rollout in the city-state. Singapore Airlines, which carried the vaccines on board one of its freighters from Belgium, did not specify the size of the batch. Singapore is the first Asian country to receive the Pfizer BioNTech shots, and the government plans to first administer the vaccine to healthcare workers and the elderly. Before now, Singapore's Changi Airport had kept its preparation to receive the vaccine in top gear. New vaccine transport carts with sub-zero temperatures were already purchased. The carts, acquired by logistics firm Dinata, are known as cool dollies and part of a government-led plan to leverage the city-state's position as an air cargo hub and ensure the distribution of COVID-19 vaccines around the region.
The minus 70 actually is not the storage requirement. Is the packaging that requires the shipment to be contained in a minus 70 environment, but the storage doesn't need to be a minus 70. We have various types of passive packaging and active packaging that can assist in this temperature requirement. For the inbound arrival from the origin, definitely we will stage the cool dollies at the aircraft at first before the flight arrival, and it will be the first one to be offloaded from the aircraft and send it back to the warehouse for immediate storage.
The city-state of 5.7 million people aims to be the regional air cargo hub in vaccine distribution. Singapore has in recent months been beefing up cold chain capabilities to ensure that vaccine like Pfizer's that need to be stored in extreme cold can be smoothly transported. Typically in the cold chain process, vaccines arrive on the planes in deep freeze storage boxes.
This is a box very similar to what any deep frozen vaccine might arrive in. A box like this typically is tested to hold a temperature inside at about -80 in an environment of 30 degrees, similar to what we have in Singapore, which will hold the temperature inside for 3 to 5 days. If we're able to provide a -20 environment like we're in here today, we can extend that up to 9 days. We can process thousands of these in a day. We have a facility here that can be scaled, but even at current facility, we can handle thousands of these every day.
Pfizer's vaccine, which is currently being administered in Britain and the United States, need to be stored at -70 degrees Celsius or below, equivalent to an Antarctic winter. Another vaccine by Moderna can be stored for up to 6 months at -20 degrees. That's our menu for this week. Thank you so much for staying with us. I'm Bukola Joe Oketumbi and wishing you the very best of the season.